Hello guys, this is Fight Commentary Breakdowns. This right here, Nick Drossos. Let me tell you guys very quickly, in 2015 when I discovered him, he was one of the major inspirations, in fact the top 3 inspirations behind Fight Commentary Breakdowns.
Now he's angling off and he's go for the sucker punch. My hands are still up.
I have to create a shield between me and them. So what I need to do is place her behind my back. Bring up my hands and make sure that wherever she is, she's behind me. He's doing this, Costa start moving around like you're talking to me. I'm always keeping. Now if Costa came here, he'd become my pivot.
Jerry, thank you so much for having me on. And every time I hear that, I always get kind of like shy and taken back by it. But at the same time, it always makes me feel good to know that what I'm doing, and I'm teaching self-defense, but I'm also inspiring people to be creative in their own way and share their talent, their gift to, whether it's self-defense or fitness or open a YouTube channel. So it always pulls back. It takes me back. So at the same time, it always reminds me why I'm doing this. So thank you for having me on, and I look forward to this interview.
Yeah, I'll just tell viewers of Fight Commentary Breakdowns and viewers of Nick that the first videos I discovered of Nick back in 2015 was when he was going around just testing if people knew how to defend themselves. And those were so inspirational because you realize, one, a lot of people never even think about situations. And you're like, whoa, one, I don't want to be like that. And two, what can I do to bring that awareness to people? And I think that's what inspired me. I'm like, dude, I don't think I know anything about martial arts. So when I discovered your channel, all I had was a little bit of Kung Fu, a little bit of Kempo, and a very, very teensy little bit of Muay Thai. That's all I had. So like I didn't feel like I was qualified, but I was like, you know what? People on the streets, people lying in parks, they've never thought about self-defense. I'm like, whatever, I don't think I'm qualified, at least I've thought about it enough, and that's kind of what got me to think about maybe I'll start a channel about this. So those were those videos. So, Nick, I wanted to ask you, what got you to, like, go out and, like, test people and, like, try to just teach people?
It was a combination of stuff. The first thing is I wanted to kind of show that what I teach works. I also wanted to show that, you don't need to, like, the idea in self-defense is that, with years of training and, you could learn more, but there's also some basic fundamentals that I want to show that there's certain stuff that you can learn right away through watching or doing that will enhance your chances of survival. Better knowing a little something than nothing at all, and sometimes that little something could make a difference. So I wanted to go out and show that, there is little things that you could learn right away, either through watching or doing, that will make a difference, that could save your life. So there was that, and there was also the aspect of finding out how much do people actually know about self-defense, and how many people, we spend so much money on our cars and our houses or whatever it is, but we don't spend money in protecting what's most valuable, and that's our life. So that's the reason why I put it together.
Since we're talking about those videos, what happened to that big intimidating dude that used to be like the dude to test all the people? Like, is he still with you, or did he like move away? Because he stopped showing up in your videos.
Oh, Big Nick.
Yeah.
No, he's still around. He's still around. We're actually, I'm making a lot of new content right now. Problem is, I'm not putting it on YouTube because they're being flagged and they're taken down.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be making like how to defend against a much taller attacker, much larger attacker, and I'm going to be doing it with Big Nick and Moose as well, because some people asked me to make more videos. Like I said, a lot of the YouTube stuff is being taken down, so everything is going up there. So there is new videos coming that I post weekly. That will be with Big Nick and Moose, Davis Dos Santos, the MMA fighter. So I'm working on a lot of new series too.
And that is exciting. And, of course, that's going on nickdrossos.com, right, your website?
Yeah, on the website, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean,
because as you know,
No, go ahead.
Like, as you know, with YouTube now, it's very hard for me to teach. Like, I did a fight analysis. I just put it up. It was a great one, how to defend against wild punches. And I'm breaking it down as a 10-minute video, and YouTube just took it down.
Yeah.
So it gets hard for me to teach the way I want to teach. If I teach knife defense, it might be a little bit, it might be graphic because I want to give the reality of what it looks like, but then YouTube puts it down. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And then I'll put it on my site where I'm a lot more free to do what I want.
Yeah. And I wanted to relate to Nick on this because one of the reasons a lot of people who watch fight commentary breakdowns are like, dude, why don't you break down the more violent stuff? Why don't you break down the street stuff anymore? I'm like, because I can't. I've had my stuff taken down too. So I'm like, you know, for the sake of the channel survival, I just can't do that. That's why all my stuff is like related to ring or, you know, in the cage or on the mats and stuff like that. So yeah, it's unfortunate, and I feel for you, Nick, and I'm really glad you have a website now where viewers can go on and like see the stuff that like we all discovered you and loved your stuff for.
But I think as well, what's important for viewers and anybody who's in the industry, I tell people the social media is not your platform. You don't own it.
Yeah.
You're just borrowing their space.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, at any point, anything could change.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need to do is you need to have your own platform. And that's why I created it that way. Mind you, what I do now is I go live every day on YouTube. And I do Q&As, I teach, but all the graphic, more hardcore stuff, I just stay away from it.
Yeah, exactly. When you launched your website, how did you find like the video streaming platform back end to like host all that stuff? Was that easy? I'm just asking because I know a lot of creators are kind of going through this current thing where like they're not making as much money or YouTube's kind of censoring them. Like, how did you find like a place to put all the videos up like on your own private space?
Very simple, man. I just use Vimeo.
Oh, so Vimeo's cool with it.
Yeah, because there's no ads, there's nothing. Oh. You know what I mean? They don't care, right? So there's no, like, I mean, it's private videos. There's no ads. There's nothing. You know what I mean? So I'm using their space, and it's put there. So again, I could do whatever I want, teach what I want. I don't care how graphic it is. I can. So you know, you need that freedom because I'm not that, you know, that cookie cutter type of self-defense guy. If I want to swear, if I want to drop an F-bomb, I want to drop an F-bomb. You know what I mean? If I want to talk about, you know, gun defense and somebody's getting shot and I'm teaching out of it, it's all for educational purposes. It's not to promote violence in any ways.
Yeah.
But so that's what I've done now with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So for viewers, I'm going to put his website and how to become a member in the pinned comments in the description. So I hope a few of you go because I love Nick Drossos and I want to go there too. So Nick, why don't we talk about your martial arts journey? You know, you're Greek, right? Did you start doing martial arts in Greece or were you born in Canada? What's your story?
I was actually born in Canada, and I grew up in Montreal Park X, which is a little bit of a, you know, lower class, tougher, you know, neighborhood. So I was bullied a lot as a kid. And, you know, back then the parents are not like, oh, how are you doing, honey? I was like, just, you know, my parents were always working. They were immigrants. They didn't have a lot of money. You know, we grew up pretty poor, if you want to say it. So, you know, I mean, you had to fight, you know, since a young kid. You know, you had to learn how to defend yourself. You had to figure out your own shit. And I started doing Kung Fu when I was about 9, 10. And after that, I spent my whole life just studying martial arts. I did Kung Fu. I did Taekwondo. I did boxing, kickboxing, Krav Maga, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu. Wow. I touched a lot of different martial arts. But my real experience happened when I started working in clubs. So when I started working in the bars and the clubs, I started learning quickly, well, what works, what doesn't work, what do I keep going back to, and how do I teach? Not from only what I'm listening to, what works, or books, or what I've been taught, but what personal experience can I bring to my teaching? Yeah. That's what I wanted to do.
Wow. I bet bouncing, I mean, when you started bouncing, what were the types of people you encountered? Were they kind of like drunk people just trying to test you, or they're actually people trying to fight you?
It's interesting, right? Because sometimes, you know, I've gotten people, oh, why don't you put a video of you sparring? And I have a couple of on Instagram, but I tell people it's irrelevant. Like, I mean, I was working in the clubs 20 years ago. We weren't filming shit, because if it was, you know, when you're a bouncer for 7 years in the club, you've definitely fought at least a handful of times, right? On an average, you know, you're fighting once a week.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're kicking out the drunk kid who's not really fighting. Other times you're kicking the aggressive guy. And other times you're faced with the guy who's telling you he's going to come back and shoot you, with the guy who's actually trying to knock you out. The guy who, you know, like, who the f are you to tell me, you know, I can't get in? So it ranged from different type of people. So I learned a lot about psychology, about human behavior, about, you know, body language, and what actually works and what doesn't work, and how to keep this shit as simple as possible for people to learn real self-defense.
Yeah. Coach Paris on my channel is the same. Like, he's been bouncing for like 5 years. So, like, you know, Coach Paris has a few black belts, but I am sure most of his like lessons, most of his like real life kind of like practical stuff happened when he was bouncing. So it's like, it's exactly like you said. The getting into fights once a week thing sounds like something that if I were a bouncer, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. It's too much risk. But, you know, some people, I guess, you know, that's just what you do.
but you know, I'm a dropout. I don't have an education. And it was the easiest, quickest money I could make.
Oh.
So, you know, you're working Friday, Saturday, sometimes Thursday, and you're making about, you know, $300 to $500 cash. Mm-hmm. Right? And during the week, I would teach a couple of lessons to make some money. Mm-hmm. So it was purely, I needed the money. Because at some point, it wasn't worth it. I did it till I was like 27 or 28, I think. I couldn't believe it. I was still there, outside fucking fighting. And I'm tired of this shit. I hate violence. I hate fighting. I hate seeing it. I hate being around it. And when you've been in it enough times and experienced it, there's nothing glorious or cool about it. Yeah. There's nothing like, oh, wow, I got into a fight yesterday. Man, you should know. When you've seen people take beatings for real, it becomes scary. Yeah. And at one point, you also know the consequences of what can happen either way, because there's no guarantees any way you look at it.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. It's also cool that you started in Kung Fu, because when I first saw you move, I was like, I feel like he's got some Kung Fu in him. Like, people who've done Kung Fu just move a different way. So, like, it's cool. You've confirmed that. You've done Kung Fu.
Yeah, I started with Silam Hungar. And I spent quite a bit of years there training it. And I actually loved it. You know what I mean? It was my, you know, my catalyst was through martial arts and training, right? Until today, and I say it openly, I still don't have a high school education. I have learning disabilities. I have my challenges, but I still managed to create a career out of my passion, do it full time, travel the world, and empower people through self-defense. So to me, I'm up in the game, man. I'm loving and enjoying my life. So I'm having a lot of fun right now with this. Yeah,
and it's so interesting. Like it feels like the school system almost like didn't give you the skills needed. You had to figure out on your own. And I was the same. Like, I went to quote unquote a prestigious college, but when I was at the college, I'm like, I don't understand anything about the world. So I actually started hanging out with people outside of my prestigious college. I started making like regular quote unquote blue collar friends. And like after college, I was like, I don't want any of that life. I want to just like learn how to be of this world kind of thing. So like, it's so interesting that I exactly feel for you. Like, even in high school, there were moments where I thought about dropping out. I was like, I feel like I can just do something entrepreneurial or something. I don't need to go through this school, forgive my French, bullshit. And of course, you know, my parents were Asian, right? Immigrant parents. They're like, no, don't drop out.
Your parents must have freaked out. You know, you're Asian. You become a doctor, lawyer, accountant. Yeah. You become something.
Yeah.
See, I grew up in the streets, and I grew up like, you know, my parents. When I told them, well, I got kicked out of school, they didn't care. They're like, go get a job. Basically, I say this openly, Jerry, at 13, I was already working. At 16, I was working full-time at McDonald's. I was out of school.
Wow.
So my life as a fighter has been that forever.
Yeah.
Like, and I tell people the greatest fight of your life is not in the street, but it's in your mind.
Yeah.
It's in your mind, and how you're gonna lead your life and how you're going to conduct yourself through it. I think that is what takes real power.
Yeah, exactly. When you started your martial arts journey, did the people who kind of bullied you, did they stop knowing you did martial arts, or did you have to like show them a little? Like, did they have to like pick on you and you have to fight them back? What was that journey?
You know what? It was so funny, Jerry, because I went to a restaurant last year and I saw a friend of mine that I hadn't seen since I was like 12 years old. I walked in the restaurant. I didn't recognize him. He's like, Nick? I'm like, he's like, it's Costa. Oh, shit. And then we started talking. He goes, man, do you remember when you fought Mackenzie? Mackenzie was there was like a Haitian gang, right? He goes, you remember when you fought him? I go, no. He goes, I'll never forget it. We went up to him. You said, you want to go? You put up your hands one-on-one, and you threw a back spinning kick, and you nailed him in the head, and you dropped him.
Wow.
And then we both got scared, and we just ran. And I'm like, shit, I don't remember that. So, mind you, you know what I mean, Jerry, I've told people, I never say to be the greatest, biggest, baddest. I've had my share of beatings. I've taken, you know what I mean? I've had my share of fights, you know what I mean? You win some and you lose some, and I'm okay with that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I say it openly, even as an instructor, you know what I mean? I'm not like, oh, I've been into 150 fights and I've never lost one. I'm like, shut up, fuck.
Yeah,
I hear that stuff. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, who did you fight?
Yeah. It's like, remember that commercial that kept playing in front of all our videos? This guy, certified, he's been in more than 500 street fights.
Yeah.
Street. I don't remember what his program was called, but I was like, okay, like that. My reaction was exactly what you said. Like, yeah, what kind of fights were you in? Like, you fought against little kids or something?
And in terms of, people, we look at self-defense and martial arts, and I'm also a fitness trainer, right? I train like celebrities. I train Sugar Sammy. I've trained Gucci Boy. I've worked on sets. I've trained Master Chef. I've trained people. So, it's a whole, the self-defense and fitness, it's a way of life. You know what I mean? It's not just learning how to fight. It's not just being strong. It's a mindset that combines everything you do. And for me personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100% agree. Tell me about your YouTube channel. When did you start your YouTube channel? I haven't even looked at your oldest video yet. So I assume you started your YouTube channel way before 2015 when I discovered you, right?
I started it in 2010.
Oh. Wow.
I knew nothing about YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I was just randomly going through shit. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know about monetization. You couldn't even monetize it back then. If I remember correctly. I didn't even know. I was just posting stuff. And then I just started posting videos and more videos. And next thing you know, it started growing. Mm-hmm. And then people started reaching out to me. And I'm like, wow, okay, people are liking this. And then they monetized it. And I'm like, shit. And then I realized, oh, I'm building a brand. I'm building a business.
Yeah.
Whoa, let me put on the brakes and figure out really what I'm doing. And that's how I ended up building it, and then I just scaled it from there.
I'm actually, as you're talking about this, I'm looking at some of your old videos. Man, I love the rawness of some of your old videos. Like, I'm looking at one called 3 vs. 1 Self-Defense with Weapons. Like, this stuff is brutal.
Those are the most raw videos. Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Like, I was like 32, 33. I'm 43 now. Mm-hmm. I still have it in me, but I've been injured and beaten. I'm more of a coach. I like to teach. Mm-hmm. But back then, I used to fucking beat the shit out of myself. Yeah. I used to be like 3-on-1 in the bathroom, 2 markers, 1 this, fucking let's go at it. And it was like full out, you know what I mean? And the problem is somebody was always getting injured, because even if you're wearing those helmets, if I give you a pump strike, even with that helmet, I've given people concussions. Yeah. I've knocked people out cold with that helmet.
Yeah.
Because your neck still...
Yeah, exactly. Back. There's still a whiplash. There's still... Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but it's so interesting looking at the old videos. Like, you let people be much more rougher on you. Like, it's crazy. I applaud that. But definitely, like, thinking back on it now, you're like, wow, I let my body take a little damage.
Man, but you know what? I think it was also part of me standing out. Mm-hmm. And... I'm planning to make new videos soon. I'm planning to go a little bit hardcore again.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I'm planning to go old school hardcore, just for me to test my limits again. Mm-hmm. And just, get back into it. But I'm probably with a little bit more protective gear, but I want to do some full out scenarios again to test myself and see where am I at right now.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Since a lot of people know you as Knife Defense, we could talk a little bit about that. So, I think everyone that watches either my channel or your channel knows about some of those common, like, misconceptions. Like, oh, I could just block a knife or whatever. But what are some things, like, in your teaching that you find that, like, still gets, like, tossed around that needs to stop being tossed around?
See, I'm the knife defense. It seems like I've kind of become an expert. Like, I don't even want to say expert, but I can't really say much about it. But I do have a contract in the U.S. where I'm going to go train some very elite people, and they asked me they just wanted me to do knife. He goes, we just want you to cover knife because we have somebody else doing other stuff, and we've seen your knife stuff. And some of the stuff that drives me crazy is like, oh, well, I'm just going to shoot him. Well, I pressure test stuff. I'm not teaching shit out of my ass, right? I have a video with the NYPD where we're 22 feet away, and somebody says go. By the time he pulls out the gun, I stabbed him, right? So I know under 22 feet, you're not shooting me, and you're not getting to your gun. The idea that you're just going to run, you're not always going to run in close quarter range. The idea that you're going to pull some fancy move, grab the arm, put him in a lock, not going to happen. But people talk, but I have videos to prove what I'm talking about through pressure testing.
Yeah.
So if you're going to teach me something, you've either experienced it or you've pressure tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you pressure test stuff and pressure test it in different environments with different sizes of people to find out what works and what doesn't work, that is the best way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important what you said, and it's something that, I don't own a gun, right? But I've even seen a lot of comments on knife defense videos like, yeah, that's why concealed carry is so important. But it's like, even I think in the 80s, the police came out with a video where they tested how long it would take for a trained cop to pull out a gun on a person running at him with a knife, and the distance was so far. And that's a cop who's trained every day. Imagine you.
Jerry, I have that video on YouTube. If you put NYPD 22 feet, it's going to pop out.
Oh, that's what it is, 22 feet. Yeah, I forgot the exact distance. That's why I didn't say it. 22 feet, okay.
If you put Nick Drossos, NYPD 22 feet, that video is going to come out.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it right now. Let me see. Yeah, it's not coming up. The YouTube algorithm might be censoring it. It's unfortunate, but...
No, well, I'll try to send it to you.
Okay, yeah,
see it.
That's good.
You're going to see it, and I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to teach self-defense, I tell people, you got to prove to me it works. You got to pressure test it. You got to do something about it. You can't just, because we're teaching people's lives. We're playing with people's lives. You know what I mean? We got to be responsible about it.
Yeah, exactly. Funker Tactical did a very cool video, like kind of examining some of those myths. So I love it. I'll have to send that to you if you haven't seen it. But like he was like, okay, so what if I change my levels, or what if I, So he was like testing other ways if I have a gun in my hand. So that was pretty cool. But like you said, Nick, it's all about pressure testing, right? They're pressure testing a lot of those myths and stuff.
And when you pressure test them, you gotta go medium to full speed. You can't do none of this. Come at me with the knife. That shit won't work, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta go at it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't even call that pressure testing. I just call that compliance or feeding.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's not even pressure testing. It's true.
Wow, that's so cool. Okay, so we know that you're gonna once this lockdown is over, you're gonna come to the U.S., do some more teaching. What are some other plans for the future? You got your website, you got teaching. What else are you gonna do?
Like I said, I have something in July in the U.S. I'm planning in September. Hopefully, if everything goes well, I'd like to go back to Greece, my homeland, do some seminars there. I've had offers, UK, Ireland, Belgium, France. It's a matter of just putting everything together. I'm planning a retreat, like a self-defense retreat, 3 days, training, combat training, just the whole package where, we'll be a group of people together really doing like hardcore self-defense, working on the mindset, and just overall as well. So that's pretty much what I'm working on right now. I also have my instructor course that I have May 23rd, 24th. I only do those once a year, and people do actually, a lot of people enjoy those courses. Like I said, it's only once a year I do them, and spaces are limited. So that's pretty much everything I have planned for the next year.
I see. I feel like I don't know if you have anything like this on your website, but like some kind of anti-bullying course or something would be right up your alley just because you've had all those experiences.
I actually have. What I did is I created an anti-bully program, and it's an hour and a half long.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is with a girl that's she's 9 years old. The other one is with a girl who's 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a psychiatrist to come in, and with 30 minutes, she explains everything about bullying, how to deal with cyberbullying, how to deal with the kids, how to talk to them, for the parents. So I've broken it down to 3 sections, which is all about anti-bullying. And it's actually a phenomenal program. It's very, very well. I did it. And what's interesting, I took Lucia, who's 9 years old, has never done self-defense. So I took her and I just taught her the basic strikes and some moves, and you see within the 30 minutes, she's already striking, she's fighting back, her confidence is getting better. But I'm also working on a full program now for kids as well.
Wow, that's amazing. That 1.5 hour program, is that on nickdrossos.com too?
Yeah, it's in my membership site. So basically the way it works is you pay $10 a month, and you could cancel anytime, and you can just watch the videos you want.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I've just kept it simple and very affordable for everybody to go in and just check what they want.
Dude, that's so interesting, and it's so important too. I love how you have a section talking about how to talk to parents about bullying.
Yeah.
Because the thing about, from my experience, is that a lot of times kids in school kind of don't want to tell administrators, don't want to tell staff, they don't want to tell parents, because it's like, yeah, what is maybe the parent's going to talk to the parents, and then I'm going to get bullied in school again. Like, what does that do, right? So it's like.
But that's why I always believe in working with experts.
Yeah.
You can't be an expert at everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know how to teach self-defense, and I've dealt with bullying, but can I really explain cyberbullying?
Yeah.
I could, but it's not my specialty. Can I actually talk about the bullying between girls and why it happens? So that's why I brought Christina Theofilos, who is she's traveled the world. She was in Korea doing seminars, and this is what she does. Mm-hmm. So I got her in there because I wanted a professional, somebody who's expert, who studied this, to give the best information possible. Because and that's why I built the program. I did the physical aspect, and she did that part both for parents. That video is for parents to know, how do I talk to my child? Yeah. What do I tell them? Should I approach the other parent? We talk about topics like that in that video.
For viewers, man, I 100% endorse that program, man. That's awesome. I've heard so many stories, like, sometimes parents confronting each other, it might lead to a fight with the parents. I had a friend, one of my best friends, his dad punched another dad, and his dad went to jail for like 4 months, That's not, you don't want to deal with that, You know
who's getting harassed the most, believe it or not? I've had a lot of teachers come to me and tell me, Nick, I need to learn self-defense. Because the teachers are being harassed by the parents.
Wow.
She goes, I'm walking outside, and because I made the kid fail, the mother started insulting me.
Wow.
So, but then, it's very interesting when we talk about bullying, because she's a teacher, and she told me, Nick, you know what? The first time we do parent meeting, when you meet the parent and you start talking to them, you're like, oh, now it makes sense. Yeah. Because the kid was a bully. Let me tell you, somewhere along the line, in most cases, the mother or the father's a bully as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because they either see that or they pick that up from somewhere.
Yeah. It's like either the mother and father were bullies, or there's a lot of problems at home. It's like you can see it immediately. Wow. Yeah. I remember one time I went to like a karate tournament just to support my friend, and there was this one kid who like did so well in the karate tournament, but I looked at his dad and I'm like, that dad looks like a huge, forgive my French, douchebag. And I was like, that dad, I think that kid, when he grows a little older, is going to be exactly like his dad. I feel bad. The kid's so nice right now. He's such a good fighter, but he's going to use the fighting abilities to bad consequences in the future.
I mean, it's like they say, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? And it's true in many cases,
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I love what I do, man. That's why I love what I do. I'm happy to help people to empower them, to build their confidence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's mentally, physically, even learning self-defense, even if you never have to use it, just the fact that you know it, right? Just the fact that you know something at least is better than you not knowing anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like, when I first saw your videos, back when I did Kung Fu, we practiced low kicks, right? But when I saw your videos, that was the first time I was like, wow, I see how to use those low kicks now, because a lot of the Kung Fu I didn't have any sparring. So it just felt like, okay, I'm doing all these things, but I don't know how to apply them. And then I saw you're like, oh yeah, high kicks, low kicks, up, down. Like, I still remember that video, man. And like, describing the 3 influences in my YouTube career, the way I would describe you, Nick, is that you're like that cool uncle that I never had. Like, seriously, I think a lot of people would describe you as that. Like, that's almost like the vibe you give off. You're that cool uncle who gives people cool stuff, like teaches cool shit, basically.
It's interesting because as I'm getting older, now how old are you, Jerry?
I'm 30.
30, right? So I'm 43.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's funny because I get sometimes comments like that. And I'm not at all insecure about getting older in my age. And as I get older, I like that. I like the fact that I am that older coach, that older mentor who has the experience. And hopefully I can share it with people to just help them in any form or way to be better than they are. You know what I mean? Every day I tell people just inch by inch.
Yeah.
Try to be a little bit better than what you were yesterday. And that's it.
Yeah. You grew up in kind of a slightly rougher neighborhood. Do you ever still go back there to try to mentor kids or anything with your program?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I go back all the time.
Wow.
I brought my son, and when I brought him in the building, he was scared to get in because it's like graffiti and everything's fucked up and broken. And he's like, I'm like, this is where I grew up.
Wow.
No, this is where I played I brought him in the lanes and the streets, the little streets. I was like, this is where I used to play. You know what I mean? He was like, he'll never experience that. And there's a good and a bad about it. It's good because you're like, okay, you're protected. It's bad because at the same time, you become a little bit soft. You lose a little bit of your resilience, a little bit of your fight, a little bit of that thing that you need inside you. Like, think of all the challenges I had to get to where I am.
Yeah.
From my learning disabilities to pretty dyslexic home that I grew up in, right? I didn't have the greatest parents, but so I think most people would have never made it. I really believe so.
Mm-hmm.
And my resilience and my strength and who I am today is because of all those pieces of those puzzles that formed me, but as well the choice that I made to not be there, to not be like my parents, to not make an excuse. Like I tell people, oh, they tell me, you don't understand, I don't have an education. I don't either. Well, you don't understand, I didn't grow up rich. Me neither. Well, my parents were not there. Mine either. Yeah. I had to work. I go, whatever you tell me, save it, man, because I'm the wrong person for you to spill that shit on.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get zero sympathy from me. Yeah. I don't give sympathy. If I do, it's because I'm like, whoa, shit, man, that's fucked up what you went through.
Yeah. I think, Nick, what you're saying is so important. And I've talked about this, my roommate who helps me with fight commentary breakdowns, we talk about this so much too. It's just, a lot of times it's easy to victimize yourself, but then when you realize interacting with people, it's that everyone's gone through shit. Some people's gone through more shit, but everyone's, very few people, maybe some of the people living in Malibu down the street over there, maybe
but you know what? Even them, in their home, lying in their bed, you don't know what's going on in their head. Yeah. So everybody's got something to fight. And the idea is, how are you fighting it? Yeah. What are you doing? Right? So your resilience and your strength and your mindset is the key to everything. To keeping it all together. Yeah. And you're right. Everybody's been through shit. Like, it's bad to say. Sometimes people tell me their shit and I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like, you're freaking out because your car broke? Okay, just fix it. Like, I mean, try being a kid and opening the fridge and you're looking and there's no food and you're like, okay, what the fuck am I going to eat? Now, see, that's a fucking problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's when you're like, shit. You know what I mean? Try being a kid and, your boots are broken and your dad's like, well, too bad. This is what you're going to wear and your feet are frozen and you just shut the fuck up. And that's, you put a rubber band and you keep walking. I mean, maybe that's why that's the way I am who I am, you know,
Yeah.
because of the shit I've been through in my life.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's, you know, it's such a funny story. Like, I had incidents like that, too, where, like, my dad was just very kind of absent-minded. It's not like we grew up poor, per se, but sometimes my dad would just forget to bring food home. So, like, you know, I've had incidents like that, too, where my dad's just in his own world, and he comes back and is like, oops, Jerry, I'm sorry, I forgot to bring food. And then, like, I had to eat with the neighbors and stuff. So it's like, you know, like, I totally know what you felt. It's like, but, you know, like, you also had that, like, you grew up in a rougher neighborhood, which I technically didn't. Like, the rough period of my life was I went back to China in the 90s when China was still, like, full-blown, like, crazy communist. And so I was the American kid in a communist school. So, like, I didn't grow up in a rough neighborhood. I was just singled out, and that's why I fought so much. But, like, you know, that's different, right? It's the difference between, like, your upbringing and my upbringing is that the people I fought didn't know how to fight, so I won all my fights. And I thought I was a badass, even though I wasn't. I just knew how to do kung fu. But, like, you, like, the people in your neighborhood was, like, they would just keep fighting, man. That's the difference. If you've ever gone to, like, a neighborhood which is rougher, people there, because of their mental resilience, they will keep fighting, like, twice as long as people in, like, richer areas. It's crazy. They'll just keep, the little girls, like 6, will just keep fighting. It's crazy.
It's funny because when I go back at those times, like I said, like, there's moments I fought, there's moments I took a beating, and there's moments I ran. Yeah. I had to pick and choose my battles, you know what I mean? Like, I tell people, you're not going to win every fight, you know what I mean? That's impossible.
Yeah.
Some you win, some you lose. And sometimes you got to just know when to shut up your mouth and just, you know, take it. You know what I mean? So I think, but when looking back, I'm like, you got to get to a point in your life when you got to look back and got to be like, wow, it was amazing. It was all perfect.
Yeah.
I'm happy for it because I am who I am because of everything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't always like that. Growing up, I was a very angry, bitter individual. Anybody who knows me back then from the clubs, I was one angry fucking guy.
Wow.
I was pissed off. I hated the world. I hated people. I used to drink. If I was, I would sit outside the club with a Jack Daniels and Coke, and I used to drink. And when I had 2 or 3 drinks, that means I would lose it.
Wow.
Right? Because I was angry because of the childhood I had, the things that when I hadn't dealt with them. And then I met a coach that I worked with for like almost 15 years. That's still kind of a mentor to me. And I started slowly working on myself, changing my mindset. But it was years of work to get to where I am today.
Yeah. Wow.
And to find like peace in my life, tranquility, to be not happy, because happy is a state. You're happy for a moment.
Yeah.
But to feel content, to be like, wow, I'm so lucky to I own my own building. I live in a nice apartment. I have my own training studio. I'm here with you right now getting an interview. Yeah. Man, life is fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it took time to get to that point.
Yeah, and I think that is such an important thing that I want to emphasize to Fight Commentary Breakdowns viewers too. It's just like everyone goes through a journey, right? And we're all fallible. You know, we're fallen creatures, basically, if you take the biblical way of interpreting it. None of us are perfect. So it's okay to go on a journey, but just try to improve a little every day, right? The thing about the human mind, we all know, is if it's not improving, it's dying. You know, because the neurons, the connections are constantly being destroyed, but it's also growing. You know, the new neurons are being created, new connections are being built. So you have to encourage that to happen, because if you don't, the mind's just going to slowly wear away.
Jerry, can you repeat that word? Because this is the first time. If you're not, they're dying. What was it? How did you say that?
I honestly don't even remember. We'll have to maybe go back.
If you're not creating, you're dying. If you're
not growing, you're dying or wearing away, or something like that.
I totally agree. I love the way you said it. That word is that if you're not building, like, I mean, the people I've met who are the most content and happy in life are the ones who are always having goals, are always working towards something. Yeah. They wake up in the morning and their life has purpose. Yeah. I'm like, you know, I tell people, sometimes people tell me, what's the meaning of life? I'm like, the meaning of life is to find a meaning and give it purpose. Exactly. And know that you're here for that purpose. Yeah. So people tell me, well, what's the meaning? I go, my meaning of life is to teach as many people around the world self-defense, to empower them, to coach them, to get them in shape, to make them feel good, to empower the younger people who are going through shit, and be the voice to say, you know what, you could do something greater and better in your life. That's my fucking thing.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Wow, that's beautiful, man. And Nick, I'm so glad to get your story, because it's almost like there's such a relatability when you teach, and I didn't realize why until like hearing your story. Like, you've been on different ends of like what you would call like the emotional spectrum. You've been angry, you've been lost, you've been everything. So like it comes through in your vibe. Like there was something about when I discovered you, I'm like, this guy was just so relatable. I didn't know why. Now I know why.
I've been so many Nicks, right? Because I'm constantly growing, because I work on myself. I tell people the greatest investment you could make is in you.
Yeah.
Right? On your training, your mindset, eating, life coaching, meditating, mindfulness, whatever it is invest in you.
Yeah.
And then the world around you will change because you change.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're all living the same world, but we all have our own perception. We're all each wearing our own glasses of what we think is fair and unfair. So that's really what it is. And I try to tell people that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? I share my story. You know, when I got divorced, man, I lost all my shit, man. I slept on the floor. I've slept on a treadmill.
Wow.
I mean, I lost half of my money, and I was like, I literally slept on a floor for 3 months in my gym.
Wow.
On mats. Right? And then I was, you know, and then my gym flooded. Then I had shit. But I look back at it and I'm like, wow, that was 10 years ago. I'm like, shit, time goes by fast. Guess what? You made it, Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
You're alive. You're good. You're stronger now. And then you get to a point that nothing scares you, Jerry.
Yeah.
Because you've been through so much. You're like, all right, what's next?
Yeah. Wow.
So when you break those fears, you're like, so I kind of live very fearless and very limitless in many ways.
Yeah, totally.
Because I also see the possibilities in everything. You look at right now what's happening in COVID. People are freaking out. I built my business bigger than ever.
Yeah.
I'm training people online. People are reaching out. I'm being more active on social media. I'm posting every day on YouTube. I built a whole other part of my business that didn't exist before the COVID. Because instead of me crying, oh my God, my business, I'm like, shit, how am I going to make money?
Yeah.
Personal training, online, self-defense. Let me do a COVID special. And boom, I started booking people.
Yeah.
And that's that resilience and the creativity and the adaptability that people need to have.
Yeah. Totally, man. I was going to ask you about your son. Does your son do martial arts with you, or does he train under other people? What's the process trying to like get your son to know about self-defense?
That's the worst, man. I love my son, but he's a gamer, man. Yesterday I was talking to him. He got a little bit of a stomach now because he's playing too many video games, and he's with his mom now because of the COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I put him in jiu-jitsu between 5 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
5 years old and 7 was doing jiu-jitsu. Then I put him in Thai boxing. I tried to teach him some self-defense, but it was a little bit hard because coming from me, it's like,
that's like, Daddy says so. No.
Yeah. It's like so now I spoke to him, and as soon all is over, I'm putting him back in jiu-jitsu. And once he does the jiu-jitsu, I'm going to put him after that back in some Thai boxing or some MMA. And then I'm going to slowly incorporate some of my own stuff in there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Or I'm going to get him to another trainer to train him. But what I teach, more or less, that I trust, to teach him the moves that he needs to know, the basic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. That's such an interesting thing I asked because, some people, their kids seem to learn very well from them. Some people, it's like, you have to have another teacher in between you and the kids. So it's like, that's like something that I think a lot of parents would love to know more too, because every parent, no matter what discipline is trying to teach what they do to their kids, and I can guarantee you 80 to 90% of them are not getting through to their kids. They're like, why? Am I a failure? Is my kid a failure? Why?
Well, the first thing I noticed is you can't force them.
Yeah.
You can't force them. You have to introduce it to them. You can't force them. You have to introduce it to them slowly. I think the other thing is you're better off taking to somebody that you trust and that you know. It's always hard, the relationship between father and son, to teach them.
Yeah.
And you got to wait till they're mature enough.
Yeah.
To kind of want to. I've had kids that I trained, they were like 10, 11. They weren't into it. 13, 14, they tried again. Their parents are like, Nick, my son wants to try again, no problem. And then he's 17 years old. he starts going to house parties, and the kid almost gets stabbed. Then he calls me. He's like, okay, my son's ready to learn. You know, it's like, what happened? I almost got stabbed. How? The guy showed me a knife. Did he do anything? No. Okay, but I shit my pants. I gave him my money. I'm like, okay, good. Let's start training. It takes that sometimes for them, because once the threat is there and they see it, they're like, shit, I had no clue what to do.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I in a very analogous situation, I joke with people, like, you know, I've had a few neck injuries. So, like, it's not until your body gets injured that you start paying attention to that area, right? It's kind of like a similar thing. So it's like, if there's a way to get people to just pay attention to proprioception, you know, the placement of their body, just get people to understand that, so that way they don't get injured. You know, they proactively strengthen areas that are often injured so they don't get injured. Because, you know, after I kept getting injured in my neck, I realized it's just because I was such a nerd in high school that my neck was always forward. And so, like, then my neck was weak and imbalanced, so you get hit a little bit, yes, it's going to just get injured all of a sudden. So, like, I wish someone told me when I was younger, just really get a strong neck. And I've been, you know, really working out my neck more. And a lot of people were like, Jerry, why don't you, like, teach people what you've learned about, like, making your neck stronger? And that could be something, maybe a teaser for a future video. Maybe Nick, you and I can do a collaboration on that too. I'd love to do one with you.
Man, Jerry, I'm 100% in on that, man. I would love to do it. You know, I think training your neck is very important, right? Because it's what keeps this connected, right? And it's going to help you with the whiplash and taking a punch, absolutely. And I kind of neglected certain things, you know what I mean? I made it in a video. For years I didn't train my legs. Now I train my legs more than anything, because I was losing a lot of power and size because I didn't train my legs. I didn't train my neck. Now I train my neck as well. Like, I started doing exercises with the bands and stuff because I trained with a pro MMA fighter. So I've seen the benefits. I train my grip because I know how important the grip is. Yeah. Right? Again, I still train every day, 45 minutes, man. I still hammer it out.
Wow. Okay, so for viewers, both channels, maybe Nick and I will do a collab where we we'll like put together some neck exercises that help us. So like I'll get started on that, and we can like put it together, and I'll be down to edit it, man. So like send me some stuff, I'll edit it together, and like I'll just put it so you can upload it to your stuff, I can upload to my stuff.
I'm down for that as well, you know. And I think in the industry we need to collab more, and we need to work together. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm very picky with who I work with, Jerry, now, because I stay away from the haters, or I stay away from instructors who bash other instructors, because I think it gives a bad name and it shows a lack of class and integrity. But I did a video with Master Wong. I did a video with Harry. Whether people agree with what he does or he doesn't, it's irrelevant, because everybody has their own style and what they teach. Yeah. At the end, as long as we're in the community and we could exchange ideas respectfully and say, oh, you know, Jerry, what you're teaching, I'm not sure. Well, Nick, you're teaching this. Cool. Let's try. Let's find out. Let's pressure test it. But when you're just shitting on everybody, and I've seen it through the industry, and that's why I stay away from all these people. I really focus on people who have the same values and mindset as I do. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just one really quick thing about Master Wong. My roommate and I yesterday were looking at Master Wong teaching the Tan Sao. And I actually liked how he taught it. He taught it better than some other people. Like, because, you know, people love thinking about Wing Chun, how to apply it. And, like, the way Master Wong was thinking about applying Tan Sao, I really enjoyed it. So, you know, I might have a reputation. It might seem like I like to poke fun at Master Wong, but I'm giving him credit, too. I really like the way he taught the Tan Sao. Well, you see, I think that everybody, you know, everybody out there has their own kind of teaching or specialty, or even though I did Kung Fu, I don't remember half the shit I did. I really don't, right? So I couldn't even apply it. I couldn't even, I remember some basic stuff. But I think it's that as long as, you know, people try to, you know, work together, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that's important in the industry, right? Because I've had people make videos bashing me, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And after that, when you reach out to them, which was funny, because one of them was super nice to me after. They're like, we still think you're the best. I'm like, so why'd you make a video bashing me, just to get views? But that's what happens, right? Sometimes people do anything for views, anything for likes, you know? Let me make a video how Nick Drossos sucks. Like, okay. And then you could take one of my videos, you could take any of my videos, break down 10 seconds and say, you see that? That's shit. It's easy to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, I think this is a good place to end it off. We talked for about an hour. This was great, Nick. And for viewers of Fight Commentary Breakdowns, I mean, I don't think any of you don't know Nick, but in case you don't know, I'm just Nick. Last name Drossos. I mean, I'm going to put this all in the pinned description and pinned comments, etc. So all of you can find him. Also, Code Red Defense is one of Nick's other channels.
There's Code Red Defense too. Absolutely. Code Red Defense is my second YouTube channel. That's with my business partner, Patrick. And that's a hardcore channel. That's just strictly hardcore self-defense.
Yeah.
And we built it because I started getting to fitness and motivation, and we wanted one just for the hardcore fans. Hey, go check out Code Red Defense, and that's it. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, guys, like we said, if you really want the stuff, you really want all the information, go to nickdrossos.com. That's where he has all the stuff. Cool. Well, Nick, I know we're going to do a follow-up, and guys, leave your comments. So even in interview format, we'll do a follow-up, but we'll definitely do one where we talk about neck exercises that have helped us, because I've definitely done some exercises that have really helped me, and I know Nick has too. So we'll do a follow-up together.
Jerry, thank you for having me on the show. Man, it was a blast meeting you, and I got to tell you, you're a great interviewer, man. I really enjoyed it. Some great questions, and it was a lot of fun. So, guys, thank you for watching, and hope to see you guys all soon.
Definitely. Okay, so I'll stop recording now. We can talk a little after this, but everyone else, bye-bye.